Welcome to week 8 of our Advertising Dynamics course. Last week, we spent a lot of time talking about research and how that can impact your decisions as an advertising professional. We talked about data, and very often in today's society, we'll discuss the concept of data-driven decisions, making decisions not just on a gut feeling or what we believe or emotion, but based on the data. Well, data on its own really isn't very helpful. We need to turn that data into actionable information. In fact, we can collect so much data with the tools that we have available that we can get analysis paralysis. This idea where we can just spend so much time trying to figure out what the data means that we never actually act on it. Now, as you read last week, when data becomes actionable, when it becomes information, then it's helpful if it can help us to make informed choices about what we need to do, what we need to alter in our ad campaigns, how we measure success, and if we've been successful by those measurements that we have in place. One of the tools we can use to make data more informational is by making it graphical. And you've probably seen information graphics or infographics that take information and make them pictorial in form. It makes it easy to digest. One of the problems with this type of data communication, information communication, is it can risk being inaccurate. Something looks pretty, it looks professional in its layout, and all of a sudden we think the data behind it is worthwhile or suitable for information decisions. So one of the ways that we can responsibly use data and communicate it graphically is through geographic information systems. And what this does is it will layer your information on points of geography, locations where things happen. One of your assignments today will be to use a GIS system. Now, you've already used this to get directions. It's called Google Maps. There's a specific piece of Google Maps that allows you to create custom maps. We're going to take some sample data today in this video demonstration, and then you're going to use the data I give you in the assignment to do something similar. You're going to take data that if I was just to give it to you in a raw form, if you were trying to communicate that to people who you're trying to convince or allow to have an informed decision on a specific topic, it may be seen as overwhelming or hard to digest. But when you create it graphically, and in this case, location information on a map, it becomes helpful and easier to digest. So let's take a look at how we can do this. The first thing I'm going to want you to do is know that very often in research, someone's going to be able to provide you with the data. And we're going to look at some data right here. I have a spreadsheet. On this spreadsheet is just simple information about zip codes and cities. And what we're going to do with this information is we're going to put it on a map so people who are making decisions maybe about what advertising format to use, what specific radio stations to broadcast their advertisements on, maybe where to geographically target digital ads based on the location of the viewer. So if you had this type of information, it could come from a variety of sources. It could come from your customer list. It could come from maybe a contest at a trade show. You get people to sign up to win something. In exchange, you have information about where those people who have some type of interest in your product, or maybe at least winning your product, or signing up for a mailing list, where they live. Let's see how we can take this database of information and place it onto a map. Now again, this is pretty simple information. Just 2 data points per line. One is the zip code and one is the city. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up Google Maps. And I want a specific portion of Google Maps. Don't just search for Google Maps. Search for something called My Maps. My Maps allows you to create these customized maps. So we'll open My Maps. Now when you open yours for the first time using your Google account, the same one you use for Gmail, the same one you use for your Google Drive, your interface will probably look much different than what you're seeing here. This interface shows My Maps, and I create maps frequently using this tool for marketing and advertising purposes. You will, whether you have one map, no maps created, or dozens like I do, you will still have this little button that says create a new map, and we're going to do that now. Once you create the map, you'll notice that the map really doesn't have any information on it that's helpful. So we're going to import something called a layer. Up in the top left corner of your blank map is the ability to import a layer. I'm going to select a specific file on my computer. It's going to be the file with the zip code information. The first thing I'm asked to do is to confirm that these are the columns of information, the columns of data that I really want turned into information on my map. And I'm going to select both these options. I want both the zip code and the city brought in. The zip code will be the primary thing that we'll use to determine the location on the map, but we're going to want to actually label each one of these data points with a city name. We'll hit continue, and we're asked here, what do we want for the title of each marker or indicator on the map? And I'm going to say city in this case, and we'll say finish. Once I click this, you can see in the upper left corner there's a loading happening. It's working. Google Maps is trying to figure out where to put markers on this map, and here they are. Let's go ahead and move this map around, and we can zoom in or zoom out, and let's go up to the Michigan area. We'll notice some of these zip codes are in our area. We click on this and we'll see Caledonia, which is in southern Kent County. We'll go up here to Twin Lake in Muskegon County, and East Tawas on the far east side of the state, right above the thumb area. Now let's go ahead and zoom out. And you can see there are a lot of markers on this map. How could this be helpful to you? Well, you can take that data, the hundreds and hundreds of lines of data that we had in the spreadsheet that may have been hard to digest, and figure out where are our customers or our survey respondents, wherever this data came from. Now you can easily get an idea where is the core of our customers, and where do our customers come from furthest away. And we see that there's some up in the Alaska area, there's some down in the Hawaii area, a good amount across the Midwest and the East Coast area, not too many, in fact none at all, in Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. And we were able to accomplish all this just by importing the data into My Maps. So one of the things we would want to do is customize this map a little further. We now have the location information in the map, and we can easily share this map with others. In fact, there's a little button right here, and you're going to need this button in order to share the map with me as you turn it in. Now, your map data will be different. I'm going to give you a different set of map data with a very specific task in mind, and I'll describe that task in the assignment. But you'll want to make sure that you use a descriptive title here. And we're going to call this Week 8 Demonstration Map. Now, again, your map will have a different title and a different description. But since I'm doing a demo for you right now, this is what I'm going to call it. And we'll say OK. Now I can further go and I can decide who I'm going to share this with. And I can copy the link and share it with whoever I want. In your case, you're going to copy the link once you have everything completed. And that's the key. Make sure you have everything completed. Share the link as a link in Blackboard. There's more details about the actual assignment and what I expect from you in the Week 8 materials within the Blackboard system. Now there's a couple other things we should do before we turn this in. I'm going to want you to do some additional customization of the data. If I click on this All Items link, I can hit the little format or paint can on the right, and I can do things like change the color. And I'd suggest you do this. I would also suggest that you customize the icons. We can go to the More Icons selection. You can even import your own icons, and I'd love you to consider doing that. If you want to know where you can get icons, you can just do a Google search, and they'll walk you through the process. You can click Custom Icons to upload those icons into the My Map system. Now that is not anything you have to do, but it's something that may be interesting for you to do. You can see there's a whole bunch of different options here. Let's just say this was somehow related to an online registry of certified daycare centers. Well, maybe we'd want to take this little baby carriage or stroller and make that our icon. And now we have a map that shows all of the current locations where we currently certify daycare centers. Now, if you go up to the layer options, you can do things like add additional layers, take layers away. In future weeks, we're going to be using the same tool to add multiple layers to one map. Now remember, all of these individual locations that you just put on a map are in one layer, but we can add information from other sources to make the map more dynamic. In future weeks, we'll look at radio station signal areas. You know that traditional terrestrial radio stations, the kind you get on a car radio or an AM/FM radio, those radio stations have a set area that they cover based on the location and the power of their transmitter. So in future weeks, we're actually going to plot transmission circles and see where different radio stations that you may decide to advertise on will cover in geographic area, and how certain radio stations will overlap each other, and some radio stations may give you coverage in areas you don't expect, and others will not give you coverage in areas where you do expect they would. Now you notice when we imported this data, and your data may have some of the same problems, you will see that there are some errors. And that's what this yellow box in the upper left-hand corner is telling you. If you open the box, it tells you that there's several lines of data that are just not helpful, or that the mapping system couldn't use to actually put a marker on the map. In this case, out of about 220 individual data sources we had, or data markers we had, only about 9 or 10 of them were not able to be used because of some type of error. You will have to decide, as an advertising, marketing, and becoming an information visualization specialist, how important is that? Do you need every single item or just a sampling? As you can imagine, if we would have imported 1,000 individual markers instead of 220, this map could get really crowded. And it's possible that it may not, if we put every single location on here, add to the insightfulness or the helpfulness of this map. Now, in other cases, you're going to absolutely want every single data point to be on the map, and missing one would impact the actual usability of the map. So that's the basics of making your My Map. Be sure to read the assignment carefully to understand what we're trying to accomplish and why with the data that I give you to map in the My Map system yourself. Remember, once you have everything the way you want it, you can use the share button up in the top left to be able to share a link to the map, because that's how I'm going to know that you've completed the task. If you have any questions about how to make this happen, please let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have fun with this new tool and a great week. Let me know how I can help.